The woman in the red dress appears now. As soon as you realize the business you're really in, and you also realize that you're not equipped to solve it because you don't know what the hell you're doing and you don't know what you got into to begin with. That is when the woman in the red dress appears. Now, if you're not familiar with my stuff, the woman in the red dress is any shiny object. It's the distraction. And the interesting thing about the woman in the red dress is that the better you get at the business, the hotter she is. And so like you think you learn to say no to a 2 out of 10. Yeah, because you've got some crackhead lady on the side of the street. It's like, okay, she's like, hey, let's go home. And you're like, I'm good. I'd rather just not get chlamydia / whatever you've got. Right. And so all businesses have shit. They all have shit. They all have a big brick wall that you have to come in contact with. And guess what? That's why you get paid to solve the fucking problem. That's why you make outsized returns, is because you have to be willing to confront with the sledgehammer in hand, not knowing how thick the wall is going to be, and start hammering away at it with the hope that when you get to the other side, it will have been worth it. And often it is. Now, I want to drive this point home. So if you have a roofing business, if you have a restaurant business, if you have a dry cleaning business, all you have to do is look at the world and see, is there any version of this business that is a $1 billion company or even a $100 million company, whatever your goals are. And most times you'll find that there is that. But you'll also find that it just takes time to get there, because the amount of times I have, let's say small business owners, it actually happens a lot, right? Is, hey, I've got a roofing contracting business. Okay, cool. And they say, hey, should I jump into a different opportunity vehicle? I'm like, well, okay, well, what are you doing? They're like, I'm doing 4 million top line. I'm doing $1 million in bottom line. I'm okay. Well, why don't you just 10x the size of your company? And then they say, well, I've got this big concrete wall in front of me, right? What they describe next is the real problem of that business, the business that they're really in, that they didn't know they were getting into. And I want to be clear, this only happens at scale. All right. So once, like all businesses, like if you're new to entrepreneurship, you got to figure out the basics of everything. You got to figure out that a wheel is round. You got to make sure that gasoline is combustible. You got to make sure that there's some sort of engine. It might be a sewing machine in the beginning that's powering your car. It might be a remote control car that can only go 10 miles an hour. But like there's got to be some engine, otherwise you're not going to get any movement, right? But when you start really wanting to achieve scale, there's going to be a big hairy problem. There's going to be a big concrete wall in front of you that you don't know how thick it is. And that is the work. That is where the enterprise value is unlocked. And the vast majority of the time, when we're investing in a company or we take over a company, we are just comfortable with the fact that there's a concrete wall and we're just going to chip away at it. And so a lot of the work that I do is actually expectation management with the team, is saying, yeah, this is going to take 2 years. Yeah, this will take 3 years. And they're like, wait, 3 years? I'm like, yeah. Well, I'm in this for let me put it this way. If in 5 years we had $100 million enterprise to this business, is it worth it? They're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, do you think we can solve it in 5 years? I'm like, well, yeah. But then guess what they don't do? Be willing to wait 5 years. And so the thing is that sometimes it takes somebody from the outside to say like, dude, let's zoom all the way out. If you solve this for $100 million, is it worth it? Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to take that long. Oh, and then things start to settle. And then you get less frenetic energy. The amount of wasted effort for entrepreneurs that goes into this ideation of what else they could be doing with their time or with their skill sets, honestly, it's like, oh, great analogy. It's like being single versus being married. All right, hear me out. Is that when you're single, at least for me, when I was a guy, I would say 30% of my time was, or I'm being generous, maybe 40% of my time, might have been higher. Anyways, I'm not getting into it, was allocated to like the idea of chasing tail. So it was like, man, what if that worked out? What if that worked out? And I'm spinning multiple plates. I'm doing lead nurture, right? I'm working the pipeline. I'm planting seeds. I'm making a quippy comment. I'm responding to a story, whatever. And so I'm working leads. And so as I was doing this, right, all my attention was going to possibility, was to potential, was to what if, right? As soon as I got married, the biggest gift that marriage got me was it got me 30 to 40% of my time back. Was I didn't have to think about this. Like this part of my life was not done, but like solved. As in like, I'm going to be with Layla. Cool. Great. Now all the extra tension that used to go to like possibility in terms of who else could be goes back into the main thing, which for me was business. Now within the business, it works the same way, is that I think most of you guys are dating your business, but you need to get married to your business. You guys are trying to have friends with benefits with your business, trying to go on dates, maybe date a couple other businesses on the side, have some side chicks, and then you're wondering why your relationship with your business isn't that healthy. If you go all in on the business will go all in on you. And I promise you, it's just that The guy who's beating you right now, he's just committed. He's just married. He's just married to the business. He's like, if it takes me 5 years, it takes me 5 years, but like, where am I going? Like, I'm in this. I'm in it for the long haul. And he sees what the value of a 30-year marriage would be, or a 50-year marriage would be with his business. And so if you know the business you're really in, which you usually find out a couple of years into the business, which is once you solve the basics of business, you realize, oh, this is the big hairy problem. And then you don't know how long it will last, but I promise you that someone else has solved it. And I promise you that they weren't super geniuses. They just were willing to commit. They were willing to swing the hammer at the wall for a very long period of time and willing to zoom out and say, I can think in 5-year increments. And do I think that if I put everything I have and not get distracted with the woman in the red dress, not have the side chick, not have these other businesses I'm flirting with that I'm keeping warm on the side, these networking lunches for this guy I might do a partnership with, even though it has nothing to do with this business because he says, hey, you're good at this, I'm good at this, we could do this thing together. None of that. And just being like, no, I'm just going to keep slamming at this wall because if I just get this one thing right, if I just break through this wall, I will unlock all of the wealth that I've ever wanted. But there is a big, thick, massive, gray, boring wall between there and where you want to go. And it's just who's willing to keep swinging the hammer for a long period of time without getting distracted and without thinking they're smarter than they are. Keep being awesome. Fucking slay. Love you all. Bye.